What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Master Duel Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Zak. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck to play on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel because we actually have Electrumite at 1, giving us some insane potential for this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name, description, every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Zak some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. This card is definitely a 2-of in the build because if an Odd Eyes card you control is destroyed by a battle or by card effect, you can special summon 1 Odd Eyes monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, which is an amazing ability, instantly getting another Odd Eyes monster out on your side of the field. This card is an amazing card to be able to put in your scale because it is a scale 8 and for that effect. We then play a single copy of Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. This card is just a really good 1-of in the deck, and I love playing Odd Eyes in the Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon deck just as a 1-of because this card is a searcher and it's a really good boss monster. We then play 3 copies of Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. This card is an amazing 3-of in the build because this card is a really cool search effect that you can discard this card, pay 500 life points, and then add a level 8 or lower Dragon Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to search out a bunch of different cards in this build, like Arc Pendulum Dragon, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, and even our copy of Persona Dragon. Persona Dragon is a really good 1-of in the build because this card is an amazing monster to summon out to your side of the field. As once per turn, quick effect, you can target a face-up monster on the field that was special summoned from the extract and has its effects negated into the end phase of the turn, which is just such a cool ability. We then play 3 copies of Odd Eyes Seer. Odd Eyes Seer is really cool in this deck as a 3-of, and it works really well with their copy of Revolution Dragon because this card is able to let you target a Perform Pal or an Odd Eyes card in your graveyard and add to your hand, then destroy this card, which is a really cool ability to recover back your copies of Revolution Dragon so you can get more searches off of it, which is just really nice to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Odd Eyes Butler. Butler is just a really good 3-of in the build. You could probably cut this card down to 2, but I really like this card at 3. It has the ability once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can add an Odd Eyes Pendulum monster from your graveyard to your extract face up. And if you do, negate the attack, then gain life points equal to the Pendulum monster's attack points, which can be a lot of life points that you're going to gain off this card's ability. This card also has a pretty good monster effect that if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target a Perform Pal or an Odd Eyes monster card you control, accept another copy of Butler, and special summon this card, then destroy that card, which is a pretty cool ability to combine with cards like Arc Pendulum Dragon. I love that about this card, it's just really good. And if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card in your Pendulum zone, which is a great effect just to move this card to your Pendulum zone. We then play 3 copies of Skullcrabat Joker. Joker's amazing as a 3-of in the deck, and this card is the best normal summon in the entire build because this card is basically the Stratos of the deck. Is when it's normal summon, you can add a Performa Pal, Magician Pendulum, or an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, which means it can basically search the entire deck. We then play 2 copies of Odd Eyes Valet. Valet is really good as a 2-of in the build because this card is a great effect that once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can make that opponent's monster lose 300 attack for each face-up Pendulum monster in your extract. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Perform Pal or an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to the graveyard, accept a copy of this card. If you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster until the end of the turn, and you can only use effect this card once per turn, which is a great ability just to level manipulate this card, which is just amazing. We then play 2 copies of Gentrude. Gentrude is amazing in the deck as a 2-of. I really like this card because this card has a crazy powerful effect that if it's destroyed, you can place a Perform Pal Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum zone, except another copy of Gentrude. And if this face-up card is in your extract, you can discard a Pendulum monster to add this card back to your hand, then return a copy of a Perform Pal or an Odd Eyes card from your Pendulum zone back to your hand, which is a great effect to basically reset your scales. And if you have have a copy of Lady Angie in your other Pendulum zone, and you control no monsters or only Pendulum monsters, you can add an On Ice card from your deck to your hand. Speaking of Lady Angie, we're also playing a single copy of this card. This card is great because it helps you draw cards in the deck, as you can discard this card and a Perform Pile monster, except a copy of Lady Angie, to draw 2 cards, which is an insane effect for this card to have. We then play a single copy of Dissolver. Dissolver is basically walking polymerization, which is really cool. I love that about this card, and it has the ability that when it's in your scale, once per turn, you can fusion summon a Dragon Fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, which is a great ability. We then play a single copy of Monkey Board. Monkey Board is insane in the deck. This card does it all. You can discard this card, reveal a Perform Power or an Odd Eyes monster in your hand. If you do, reduce the level of monsters in your hand with the same name by 1 for the rest of the turn. But the main effect you're going to use on this card is its Pendulum effect, that unless you have a Perform Power card in your other Pendulum zone, its scale becomes 4, but during the main phase, if this card was activated this turn, you get to add a level 4 or lower Perform Power monster from your deck to your hand, which is an insane effect that this card can literally search the searcher with cards like Skull Crobat Joker. We then play a single copy of Pendulum Sorcerer. Pendulum Sorcerer is great because it can pop cards and add cards to your hand, which is just an insane ability to use in the deck. Play a single copy of Odd Eyes Synchron. Synchron is amazing to help you go in for synchro plays, and it's just a really good one-of overall in the deck. We then play a single copy of Astrograph. Astrograph is one of the most powerful Pendulum monsters ever created, with its really awesome ability that if a card you control is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can choose a monster in your graveyard, extra deck, or that's banished that was destroyed this turn, and add a monster with the same name from your deck to your hand, which is just such a cool ability about this card. We then also play 2 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. Unicorn is just insane because this card can search your copy of Birth, which is really good in the deck, so we play a lot of level 7s, and this card is just amazing overall in the build. Plus, it lets you look at your opponent's extra deck, rip a card out of it, which is really nice to be able to do. Plus, it's a Cyber Dragon that if you don't control a monster, you can special summon this card in your hand. We also play a single copy of Fenrir. Fenrir is just amazing in the build as a one-of. To be able to special summon out this card to your side of the field, search out your copy of Unicorn from the deck, and currently it's at 1 in Master Duel, which is why we just play a single copy of this card, but it's still amazing to search out your copy of Unicorn directly from your deck to your hand, so we can get to our copy of Birth, which is just an extremely powerful card in this deck to help us link climb. We then also play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just a fantastic hand trap overall in the deck, just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. In this deck, you can combo through your cards like crazy, so you really don't need Max C in this build. I actually chose to play the Kashtira cards over Max C, but since we are in Master Duel, if you would like to drop the Kashtira cards, you can drop them for Max C in this deck, and that is an option for you guys if you don't like the Kashtira cards, but I really like them in this deck, and they're really, really helpful. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is just a really good one-of in the deck to be able to get the exact card you need in the grave. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is really good in the deck overall as a one-of because it can help you get to your copy of Triple Tactics Talents, which is like playing 2 copies of Talents in the deck. Talents is insane in this deck because this card has a really cool ability that if your opponent activates a monster effect during your main phase, you can either draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand, choose a card from it, and shuffle it into the deck, which is a really cool ability about this card. We then play a single copy of Spiral Flame Strike, which is another card that you can search off your copy of Thrust, which is really cool. And this card has the ability to let you add one of your level 7 Odd Eyes monsters from your deck to your hand, or it has the ability that if you control an Odd Eyes card, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. We then play a single copy of Sky Iris. Sky Iris is amazing as a one-of field spell in the deck. It has the ability your opponent cannot target Magician, Perform Pile, or Odd Eyes cards in your Pendulum zone with card effects, and you can also target one other face card you control, destroy it, and if you do, add an Odd Eyes card from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Kashtira Birth, which we search off our copy of Unicorn. The reason we're playing this card is because we can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing, which is an insane ability to use this card. And also during your main phase, you can special summon one of your non-XZ Kashtira monsters that's banished or in the graveyard, which is just an insane ability. I love that about this card. And if you choose to not play the Kashtira cards over the Maxi, you can play another copy of Thrust, another copy of Spiral Flame Strike, or another copy of Sky Iris if you want to over your copy of Birth, with the copies of the Kashtira cards being replaced by 3 copies of Maxi. We then also play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is amazing in the deck overall, just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you. And since it is Master Duel, we do play 2 copies of this card. Another card you could potentially replace your copy of Cast Your Birth with, if you wanted to, is a Crossout Designator, if you do put in the copies of Max C, which is another option for you guys. But Called by the Grave is amazing in the deck to be able to play, just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, this is going to look a lot different from a TCG deck profile because we do have cards like Electromite in this deck because it is a Master Duel deck profile. So this is insane for this extra deck. So we're going to start off with a single copy of Overload Dragon and a single copy of Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon. These are basically just to OTK your opponent, because what you do with these is you make your copy of Rebellion Dragon, and then just like Utopia Lightning, you make your copy of your Overload Dragon. And this card can attack basically 3 times to OTK, which is insane to be able to do, to just go in for game. I love that about Overload Dragon. It's very easy to make in the deck. We can play a single copy of Absolute Dragon. This card is absolutely amazing because if this XZ summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Odd Eyes monster from your X deck, except another copy of this card, giving us access to cards like Vortex Dragon and other cards, which is just really, really nice. We can play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a walking negate in the deck, which is insane. It can pop cards on the field. This card is definitely a 1-of in the deck. Play a single copy of Meteor Burst. Meteor Burst is really easy to summon in this build, and this card has the ability that when this card is special summoned, you get to target a card on your opponent, or target 1 card in your Pendulum zone, special summon it. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of the turn, and it also has the ability that once per turn, monsters that your opponent possesses cannot activate their effects during the battle phase, which is a really cool ability just to protect yourself during the battle phase. We then play a single copy of Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom. Since we are doing a Master Duel deck profile, we're playing this guy at 1. It's really good in the deck overall, very easy to summon out to your side of the field. It must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing the above cards you control, in which case you do not have to use polymerization, which is just 2 Dark Pendulum monsters to summon out this card. And this card also has the ability, once per turn, you can target 1 other monster on the field or in the graveyard, and until the end phase, this card's name becomes that monster's original name, and replace this card's effect with that monster's original effects, which is a really cool ability. And if your monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent, which is a really insane ability just to do piercing damage to your opponent. Play a single copy of Vortex Dragon because this card is just an amazing walking negate in the deck, and I love this card as a 1-of in the build to be able to summon off our copy of Absolute Dragon or Dissolver. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is really good in the deck overall as a 1-of because this card just pops multiple cards on the field. It's just amazing in the deck to come out absolutely massive. 1 copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is really good as a 1-of in the build as well because this card is very easy to make with multiple negates. You can make this card easily with 4 negates in the deck, plus its link arrows are crazy. 1 copy of the Swarm Ship. Swarm Ship is just insane in this deck to be able to work with our copy of Bestower of Flames because Electromite is fire, and we do have Electromite in this deck. So it's really good to be able to summon out to your side of the field, to link climb into your copy of Bestower of Flames, and then bring out your copy of your Swarm Ship, which is just really good to be able to do because it gives you an additional pop, and you can bring back your copy of Bestower of Flames from the graveyard, giving you those link arrows, which is really nice. 1 copy of Selene because this card helps you link climb, which is really cool to be able to do, to go into your copy of Appaloosa or your copy of Access Code, usually Access Code, to be able to go in for game. 1 copy of Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, which is again different from the TCG. This card is currently, I believe, at 1 in Master Duel, which is really insane to be able to summon out this card because it's a crazy powerful combo piece with the ability, if this card is link summon, you get to add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your X deck face up, and once per turn, you can target 1 other face up card you control and destroy it, then add 1 face up Pendulum monster from your X deck to your hand, and if a card in your Pendulum zone leaves the field, draw a card, which is really cool. Plus this card is fire, which works with Fire Princess, which then can climb into your copy of Swarm Ship. We then play a single copy of Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf is just a good combo piece in the deck, and it's just really good overall in the deck, is you can bring back your monsters from the graveyard, which is really cool to be able to do. And then finally, we play a single copy of Beyond the Pendulum. Beyond the Pendulum is great in the deck as 1-of, as this card just searches out your Pendulum cards and can pop cards on the field. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Master Duel Odd Eyes deck, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's crazy in Master Duel because we have so many cards that we don't have in the TCG, which is just really cool, and I love this deck. It's really amazing how powerful this deck is, and it's just a really fun deck overall. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit that bell and become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.